views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Velez Fashionistas Home Edition. I am your host, Fleriser Bello. It is a pleasure to have you join us on this beautiful afternoon. We trust that you and your loved ones are well and staying safe. In today's Velez Fireside Chat conversation, we welcome the president of the Velez Organization, a second-generation Latino-owned general construction and construction management firm headquartered in New York City. The firm also provides diversity and inclusion, community outreach consulting services, and mentoring services to build capacity to the next generation of small businesses. Please join me in welcoming Latina trailblazer and Puerto Riqueña Elizabeth Velez. Elizabeth, it is a pleasure to have you join us today.
Such a pleasure to join you. And I am joining from our beautiful island of Puerto Rico. So I just came down here to check on some things, and I'm heading back to New York at the end of this week. So hello, bienvenido to Puerto Rico.
How beautiful was just that, the fact that I said Puerto Riqueña, which happens to be in Puerto Rico. Right. Everyone. Latina trailblazer also. Now, Elizabeth, please tell us about yourself and what it is that you do and what your company does at the Velez Organization.
I like to consider myself an advocate. I'm certainly a mom, a sister, a daughter, and a wife. But my day job is I wear a hard hat. And so we own a construction firm based here for over 50 years in New York City. We actually have an office in Puerto Rico now. And we build schools and hospitals, convention centers, community centers. We just finished our first COVID-19 testing facility in Far Rockaway, Queens. So we're thrilled to be able to kind of contribute, hopefully, to the social infrastructure of New York City, as well as perhaps even helping us getting through pandemics of now and in the future with the building of our testing labs. So I've been in the construction industry for about 30 years and absolutely love it. It is an incredibly risky industry. It is traditionally male-dominated industry. And I was brought in by my father when I was in undergrad in college and never looked back. The ability that I feel we have to actually create. And I love that my job is something that's tangible, that I can touch it when it's done. And hopefully it'll stay in place, my schools, et cetera, for many, many decades to come. To me, it's just a tremendous benefit. I am also the chairperson, the newly elected chairperson of the New York Building Congress. The New York Building Congress is coming up on 99 years old this year. And I am only the second female and the first person of color to be able to sit at the helm of the New York Building Congress. And what we do is we basically advocate on behalf of the construction industry for good policies, good projects, and especially now, given our economic challenging times with COVID, we're advocating for capital money to come into New York State and New York City to be able to create and build our communities.
Congratulations, Elizabeth, for not only holding all these positions, but also congratulations on the Building Congress. That is a big deal. Everyone, if you don't know what that is, I urge you to search that. She is the second woman to be able to do that, and of color, and a Latina, which, you know, at Velez Fashionistas, our goal is to not exacerbate, but to actually applaud and highlight Latinas that have really paved the way You have also been appointed to the advisory board for the reopening not only of New York State's economy but New York City, and I want to applaud you for that because you continue to lead and pave the way to many Latina of us who see you as a woman that has really broken the glass ceiling, I would say. So congratulations to you on that, and thank you for being such a great example for our community.
When I sit on these boards, right, especially with New York State Forward Board as well as New York City, that I actually take really seriously. I take it to heart who I'm representing. I know that who I'm representing is our community. I know that I'm representing those smaller businesses in our communities that hire from our communities. And so I try and speak with our collective voice. And it's a collective voice that's brought on by years of me also standing on the shoulders of lots of other amazing Latinas, including my grandmother. We take a page from that, and there's something amazingly empowering about using our culture, our experience as women, as collaborators, as communicators, but also tapping in to our cultural strength and bringing that forward in everything that we do. I know that I would not have been able to get to where I am today if it wasn't for those wonderful people that were in my life that kind of pushed me and showed me the way. And so if I could do that to even a few folks, to bring them in, especially women, especially Latinas, and show them that we have a place at every table to contribute, not only in our communities, not only with our families, but to our city and our state, then to me, that's a job well done.
As you know, COVID has impacted many industries, displaced or even closed small businesses throughout New York City and internationally. Can you tell us how the construction industry has been impacted with COVID?
One of the most important lessons I think that we've seen from this COVID crisis is that it has unveiled something that a lot of us already knew, that there's tremendous disparities in not only healthcare, but also in wealth and even now social justice issues between our communities. This impacts the construction industry quite a bit because it impacts the communities in which we build. So I wanted to say that because it really has affected the minority communities much, much harder in every way, in health and in wealth. So moving towards construction and how we go towards reopening, everything that we do now has to be done. We are in uncharted waters. We've never had in recent memory a pandemic such as this, and it's affecting everything about our life. I don't have to tell you or any of the folks that are watching how this has impacted us in our homes. We've changed the way this example, right? Virtual interviews, right? We totally changed the way that we conduct ourselves and conduct our businesses. And so as we move forward with this reopening, we have to do that with that eye, that we can go forward safely, because that's the most important thing. On construction projects, it's the safe moving of our employees in, it's the safe conducting of our businesses in the field. So that's maintaining social distances, maintaining personal protective equipment as required to be able to continue to construct and build New York. But it also goes into our offices when we open them up, how our employees come onto project sites, how they get there through the transportation systems that are in the city of New York for the work that we do. And so everything that we are doing as we move forward as opening now has to be more clearly articulated. We have to have health and safety plans on any business, I think, going forward for the foreseeable near future. And we have to change the way that we work in the field, which is definitely, if anyone has ever walked by a construction site on the street, you know that it's very hard to maintain social distances when you're putting up a beam or working together as electricians or plumbers do. But it's something that we have to do now and have to do for the foreseeable near future to be able to stem this virus from proceeding any further until such time as we have a vaccine and we can move forward rather easily. So we're looking at all those factors in terms of how we do our work. And then as a state and as a city, ensuring that for the state that we open up our state and our downstate areas and our city with the utmost care so that we can stem the going forward infection rates. But also on the city, this crisis has brought apart not only coronavirus, but for the city, it has revealed that the city has had its fiscal challenges. And so all of the projects that we had scheduled to go forward, many of them have been put on pause as we deal with not only the health end of this, but also the dollar side for the city of New York, which is being hit hard. And so the city of New York and the state of New York, through our elected officials, and I'll be going down closer to the end of the to Washington to be able to advocate for funds to come in to help us in a whole host of areas, not only in building, but also in strengthening our hospitals, strengthening our schools, as well as providing an economic boost to help kickstart our economy, which has really been stagnating for the last few months.
We will take a quick break, and when we return, Elizabeth will provide additional insights on how New York State and New York City are working onto the road of recovery and reopening the New York State economy. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Elizabeth, as an advisory board member for the New York State and New York City's reopening of the economy, what are some of the guidelines and measurements to be considered for those construction firms and small businesses moving forward?
There's one thing that we can be certain of is that nothing is certain. And this is such a fluid time in our lives. This pandemic has taught us that what you think is reality is maybe not. And when you think you might be able to reopen something, you may not be able to. I have really been impressed by our New York leadership, both on the city and the state level, with the ability for them to keep calm in the face of change and also provide us with powerful direction and information to be able to weather this storm, this pandemic for certain. So what is tomorrow going to look like? And I don't mean that literally tomorrow, but our future. We're going to have to employ quite effective and extensive safety practices moving forward. I have no problem wearing a mask. I've been able to, you would appreciate this being a fashionista. I have been able to procure some great masks that match my outfit, or I've got some tropical masks too. I'm making light of a very serious thing. I think we're going to be wearing masks for months to come as we transition back into the lowering of the infection rates from COVID. So let's make it our own. I actually saw somebody with a leather mask and I was like, okay, I don't know if that's a good mask, but that's a good look.
I can tell you something though. A Speaker of the House, Pelosi, has been matching her outfits, which I love. And I just tweeted about that as a Pelosi of Bello Fashionistas. However, given the circumstance, I think it's really nice what she's doing, also like matching her outfits.
Yes, I mean, actually, I've been seeing a lot of the masks actually are making their own statement, and I love it that people are showing their personality through their masks. But the reality is they're going to be with us for some time, and especially in our metropolitan New York area, we really need to be cognizant of the safety of others and wear our masks, I think, at all times. In addition, just kind of best practices moving forward in our offices or in the fields. It doesn't matter. Anyone that comes in, make sure it's by appointment only, that you don't necessarily have an open door initially, to restrict people coming in and out of your places of business. For workers, being sure that you ask those questions that the CDC recommends. How are you feeling? We actually have went out and bought a bunch of thermometers, those thermometers that you see where you can take the temperature without touching the person. It's that critical to be able to ensure that we're on the right side of this decline of COVID. And of course, the social distancing, this hand sanitizing. I'm finding that it's much easier to get those kind of personal protective equipment now than there was even a few weeks ago, including disinfectants. I mean, this is going to be our new normal, and I think it'll be our new normal going forward for a very long time. So those safety practices are going to be very important. But I think that there's going to be other changes moving forward. I think we've shown to ourselves and to our employers that we can operate in a virtual environment. And so I think for the short term, we're going to see a lot more of the virtual environment continuing. And I like that. I am one, I'm a Latina, and I love to hug up and kiss and touch people and have that kind of fellowship and bring them in. And if you come to my office, which I hope you do when we reopen, you can come in and we'll have food and all that because, I'm a Latina. I have to feed everyone that comes in. I miss that. But we've seen that we can operate in this kind of virtual environment successfully. And I think that's going to bring upon many changes for us moving forward. And it's especially relevant for women because we bear more of the responsibilities of raising our families. And I think it'll give a lot more flexibility to women as they move through their career, that they can do their jobs off-site well. And so I think we're learning a lot of lessons, unintended silver linings to this crisis. In addition, I think on the construction side, we're going to be seeing a lot of differences in what we're building. And so the schools that we build are going to be more built for telecommuting and that virtual environment. And perhaps for more social distancing in some of the activities that, for example, the schools do. The hospitals of the future may look different, but the future is now. That's how fast this pandemic has affected our ability to live, work, and play, especially through New York City. I see this challenge as our strength.
Now, I've seen that in Asia, they have put like dividers and students, pupils, like in between desks. Do you see that happening here in New York City, in New York State, or in the United States?
I definitely think that that's an indication of what's to come, because this will not be, unfortunately, by statistics, the one and only pandemic that we're going to have. The reality is that we may have more of this as we become more of a global economy and we come in and out of each other's countries. The reality is we may be seeing this again, unfortunately, sooner rather than later. I think that their caution is wise, especially when bringing children back to schools. So for us, we're getting ready. We're getting ready for the start of September. This is traditionally our very busy time and during construction to make those schools ready. We haven't received any changes in design at this point, but all those things are being looked at right now to be able to bring the kids back safely to the schools, both K through 12, pre-K, as well as colleges. And so we're even seeing the colleges rolling back out very slowly, having smaller class sizes, having less physical interaction with each other. We have so many brilliant minds working right now in the city of New York and in the state of New York to be able to address those concerns, because we need our society, we need our communities to go back to as normal as we can get but especially for the kids, we need to be able to provide them a place to go, a place for learning, a place for social interaction. And by the way, when they go back to school is largely when their parents can go back to work. So to restart our economy, I think those things personally go hand in hand.
Now, another question that I do have to ask you, I know that you sit on both boards of the New York City and the New York City. How does it differ? How does the plan differ for New York City versus the state with the reopening?
That's a great question because they do differ. So New York State is providing overall direction based upon hospitalization rates, testing abilities, tracking ability. There's 7 measures that New York State is looking at to be able to reopen our lives, really reopen our economy. New York City is taking a guidance from New York State, but because the beautiful part about New York City is that we're all up on each other, right? We have a very small footprint and a lot of folks that are living here. The mayor has had to take additional steps. And so that he's taking his page. I think the mayor in New York City is taking their page from New York State. But the difference with New York City is, of course, we're one of the last places to reopen. We're moving through our phases slower because we've been hit the hardest really in the country, but also the financial toll that it's taken on New York City in particular has affected everything about how we are New Yorkers. So it's affected the MTA and our transportation system. It's affected the Port Authority and our planes and our buses and our everything about the way that we work and how we get to work. And then it's also affected the ability for New York City to do their capital programs, the courthouses, the schools, the hospitals that are in New York City, in addition to LaGuardia and JFK, which both had huge infrastructure projects going on now. So the city is being affected through its pocketbook in a difficult way, in a much harder way than the state is because of the financial cost of COVID, the loss of sales tax, the loss of all of the operations that go in to New York City have been basically shut down for all that time, and the costs have gone up as we had to respond to this health epidemic. And so we really have to look towards New York City, really taking a big breath and moving forward and trying to figure out its fiscal constraints. We're coming up on the city's fiscal year ends, and the city will be coming out with their new budget in a few months, in about a little over a month. And so I think we're going to be seeing that very quickly.
And that is what the guidelines of the construction firms that they should be getting ready to follow. I know that you mentioned some, but what are the additional things that they should be considering moving forward as for that specific industry?
In New York City, the Department of Buildings is issuing violations if the guidelines are not met. And I always tell my contractors that I talk with that guidelines often become regulations. So really pay attention to whatever you see coming out as far as guidelines are. In the city of New York, if you do not maintain the best practices regarding the Center for Disease Control, CDC, as well as the state of New York executive orders that have come out, if you do not maintain your social distancing, have policies and procedures, have a plan, have a safety plan in place, then you face violation of $10,000 per violation. So that's a lot of money for you to not pay attention to having the masks and the gloves and the sanitizing and taking those measures to make your job safe and make your workers safe so they can go back home to their families safe. So what we're seeing is these additional fines are pushing forward some additional guidelines. I have to refer you guys, for anyone that's in construction, to New York State. If you go to the New York State Forward webpage, there is actually an interim guidelines for construction businesses. It's a phenomenal resource. It tells you everything that you need to think of as a business, as a construction business in the state of New York and in the city of New York. And you can go through it. It gives you a playbook to be able to come back to work. In addition, they actually have, and if you're doing state work, you will need to do this, but I recommend it to everybody. They actually have a safety template. So if you go to that New York Forward website under interim guidance for contractors, they have a safety template. New York State has a safety template. It couldn't be easier. You just type your information in and it creates a safety plan for you based upon all of those factors that you need to take into account as you go back to work. So I recommend it for actually any business because many of those things resonate. Doesn't matter if you sell, if you're a bodega, if you are selling clothes, or you're running a construction firm. A lot of those best practices are just that, best practices that can apply to any business. So New York State has a tremendous amount of resources on their website, their New York Forward website, especially for construction businesses. Construction is considered essential to New York State. And so many of our projects have continued moving forward, even with this pandemic. And so I also want to give a shout out to all of my brothers and sisters that are actually working in the construction fields. They are heroes to us as well because they have kept us moving through this pandemic.
I want to thank you so much for joining us, Elizabeth. I hope that we could bring you back in soon so that you can continue to guide us and provide us with all these insights on what's to come in the near future. Now, tomorrow, today is the future, as you had mentioned. But where can people contact you?
So go to our website, www.velezorg.com. I'm also available via Twitter and at LinkedIn at Elizabeth L. Velez. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns, or just to say hi, or for a virtual abrazo, a little bit of a hug. We all need it right now.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Have a wonderful stay in Puerto Rico. Please tell us briefly what it is that you do in Puerto Rico. I know that you had mentioned that you had to go for work.
We set up a business here in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and really the push of the business really was getting back to my community down here. And so we're training people that want to enter into the construction industry. So we're training them on carpentry, on building roofs, on how to operate within a construction environment so that they can be the builders of tomorrow here on the islands.
Thank you again, Elizabeth. It was a pleasure to have you. I wish you a safe travels. I know that you're coming in soon to New York City, so have a great one. Be safe. And
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Be well. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to follow us on social media at Velez Fashionistas and also our media partner at BronxNet TV. To watch more of our programming, please visit our websites at velezfashionistas.com and our media partner at bronxnet.org. Take care and have a great day.